Can you withstand all of the leaders? Come on, man. Do we have to do this every time? You must respect my TCG prowess. I will defeat you with all of the leaders. You're just cheating. You get that, right? Insolent fool. Who has the power to stop me? Bandai, it's clear that you can only have one leader. Quiet! It is my second turn. I attack with all of the leaders. You see, their infinite power. Nothing can stop me. Can you counter all of them? Okay, you win. Why are you like this? Alright, so obviously we can only play with one leader. So what this video has set out to do is to give you an idea of what leaders you may want to play. So we're going to be showing a bunch of different leaders. I'm going to be going through all of them. We're going to do something very cursory, so I'm not going to be doing deep dives. If you guys want to do deep dives, and that's something that you're really like jazzed for, I'm definitely down for that. It sounds like it'll be fun. But because I just want to kind of give people an introduction to everything, that's not this video. It's just basically showing a couple different cards that work well with it. Okay, so we're going to be starting with Monkey.D.Luffy. Okay. And one of the cruxes of Monkey.D.Luffy, what its ability is you activate main. Once per turn, give a leader one of your... and give this leader or one of your characters one rested dawn. So he's about efficiency, and he's also about going tall, because he only gives one character a dawn. That's how he works. It makes it so that you can pull off some cool stuff. Here's some of the cards that work really well with Luffy. You have Nami, who does the same thing. It's just a 1 for 1k that has a 1k counter. Good card. It's just complicated to whether or not you actually want to use it. And then you have Brook, who gives 2 Rested Dawn to a character when he comes into play, which is really solid because he's also a 2k counter. So he's just really strong. He's played in most of the red. You have Sanji, who you can give one of the Rested Dawn that the Luffy uses to him, which makes it so you only have to put on one more Rested Dawn to get his rush ability, which is really strong. You have Monkey.D.Luffy, the rush Luffy. What he does is when attacking, he becomes unblockable if you have 2 Dawn on him. So you can use a lot of characters to give him extra to make it so that he's unblockable, which is super strong. The event that I'm going to be talking about is Diable Jambe, which makes a Straw Hat unblockable, which is super, super strong. It steals a lot of games. Generally, you're going to make like a Rush guy unblockable or your leader unblockable. Then you have Radical Beam, which what this does is up to one of your leader or character cards gains up to 2,000, or it gains plus 2,000 power list. Then if you have 2 or less life cards, this card gains an additional 2,000 power. So that generally, most of the time you're going to be playing this event is when you're already down quite a bit of life, so it usually gives you 4,000, which is, for one, really strong. So the next we're going to be talking about Roronoa Zoro. Okay? And we have the nice Zoro, and then we have the more common Zoro. You have Nami. Nami, she searches the top 5 for a Straw Hat card. It says it is actually a Straw Hat card, not a character card. There's an errata, so it actually can get you a couple of the different Straw Hat events. Of course, I'll go into one of those while I'm talking about Zoro. Here is the alt art Nami, just showing off some of the cool looking cards because it looks good. There you go. Then we have Roronoa Zoro. So we have Rush Zoro, super good, just banger card. Cost 3 for a 5k body. He rushes, which means he can attack the same turn that you put him out. And then here is the dope looking Rush Zoro. So we're going to be looking at that. Boom, just super good looking card. Another thing you want to be looking at for Zoro, you want to run some of the vanillas. These are some of the better ones because they're 2 for a 4k body with 1k counter. So they are really useful early game. So you can play them second turn if you don't have any other plays like a Nami or anything like that. If you're going second. And they swing for 5 when you use Roronoa's ability, which how he works is all of your characters gain 1,000 power whenever he has a Dawn on. So he goes wide because he can give you like 6k, up to 6k power for 1 Dawn on him. Luffy is going tall because he only gives 1 Dawn to somebody, but it makes you have a bit more of an efficient game. And then Otama, which is just banger card, great. What she does is she's a 2k counter first off, already makes it decently worth playing. Cost 1 gives your opponent's characters minus 2,000 power during this turn, which there's a lot of utility things that you can do with it. This card is nuts when you use it correctly. It is just an amazing card. And then you have the Jet Pistol. So you have Otama, Jet Pistol, one of the best combos in the game. You can kill something that's 8k for 2 cards. 8k power, that's 2 cards, and 5 Dawn, which is insane. And then we're going to also be talking about Uda. Most of what Uda does is makes vanillas better, right? So she is, I would say, strictly tall because she doesn't really have much Dawn interaction. So you pay a Dawn, and then up to one of your characters with no base effect gains 2,000 power during this turn. So she's basically just riffing off of vanilla stuff. So you got your regular Monkey.D.Luffy, who doesn't have any powers. You have Ben Beckman, no power. You have Yasop, no power. And then you have the Jellyfish Pirates. These are just a couple of the vanillas that you can run with it. Obviously, there's a lot of different vanillas that you can look at. The major thing is I like abilities, so I would prefer any of these characters that I've shown you, which all of them are kind of interconnected, and like a lot of time you're going to want to run Zoro in almost any red deck, anything that has red, just because it's a really good card. Same with like the unblockable Luffy. But so that's red for you. What we're going to be moving on to now is green. Okay, so we got Kouzuki Oden, we got the pretty Oden, we have the common Oden, we have Kid, and we have the alternate art Kid. Okay, so I'm just going to be talking about both of these today. We're going to start with Eustass Kid, which he is aggro. He is aggressive. What he does is once per turn, you can pay 3, and you may trash 1 card for your hand, set this leader's active. So he is amazing. You can use him to like attack twice. You can use him to control the board by killing characters that are rested, or you can also use him to end the game by just like loading up Dawn on him and swinging twice. He's like super crazy good. So the first one that I would say, controversial pick for some, is Basil Hawkins. What he does is when you put 1 Dawn on him once per turn, if this character battles your opponent's character, set this card as active. So he is insane, right? What he does is he's really good at controlling the board. So you can either decide to swing twice with him. So you swing at 2 rested characters or a character and and then you also get a swing on their leader. Or you can use Basil just like to kill characters and then leave him up. So then it's almost impossible for them to kill him unless they have an event card or they have like some sort of like hard removal, which makes him just a really solid card in my opinion. Of course, there's a lot of people there's like an online discourse on whether or not he's good. I think he's good. I think he's way good. You could 2 to 3 is I think the number for him. Some people have even said up to 4 because he's just, you want to see him. The games that you see him, he just deals with threats. Then you have Killer and you have X-Drake. They are both really similar. So Killer, it costs 3 for a 3,000. It KOs one of your opponent's rested characters with a cost of 3 or less. Okay, very good card. The other thing is that on trigger you can play him. So, but I'll go into a trigger video later. But that does add a nice little bit. Then you have a 5 for a 6k body that KOs one of your arrested opponent's characters with 4 cost, 4 or less cost, which that's also very good. It's just paying 5 to kill something that's 4. It's just kind of even though you are getting a body out of it, it's just kind of meh because there's a lot of good 5 costs in green. And then you have the searchers, right? So you have Jewelry Bonnie, which you tap 1 Dawn and tap her, and then you get to look at the top 5, and then you get to pick a supernova. Then you have Kouzuki Momonosuke does the exact same thing, but for Land of Wano. So both very good cards. They work really well with some of the other cards I'm going to go into, but I'm going to make sure that I talk about those. And then the other thing that I like to talk about for Kid is Punk Gibson. Just up to one of your leader or character cards gains 4,000 power during this battle. Then rest up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less for 2. So the way that you use this is you do 4K, right? So you use it to 4K, and then you want to rest whatever they're going to swing with you next. So like, let's say if somebody had like a Zoro or something, you'd like use this, and then they swing with something else. So you use that on your leader, and then you're resting the Zoro. So you're protecting your leader, and you're also preventing their attacks. So really strong card, and it's a card that you want to play around if you're playing against green and they have 2 Dawn open. Okay, and then for Oden, I'm going to be talking about the big kid. So we have big kid here. Here's the normal one. Here's the alt art one. Super cool cards. But what he does is when you put 1 Dawn on him and rest him, they have to attack Eustass Captain Kid character, right? And then once per turn, you may rest him and play 1 character card with a cost of 3 or less from your hand. So you may play, so you don't have to play a character with a cost of 3 or less, but you can play a character with a cost of 3 or less. So you can put out like a blocker with him to protect him and stuff like that. Really strong card. The reason why I'm talking about that with Oden rather than talking about with Kid, even though they're generally played in both, is because with Oden, his ability is activate main. Once per turn, you can trash 1 Land of Wano card type from your hand, then set up to 2 of your Dawn cards as active. So you do that, you trash 1 of your Wano cards, and then you have 2 Dawn active so that you can use like a Punk Gibson, or you can use another event, which I'm going to be going into one of the other events. Okay, so then we have Raizo. Okay, so Raizo works really well with Jewelry Bonnie and Momo, because what he does is when attacking once per turn, if you have 2 or more rested characters, draw 1 card. So you can just tap him. If you've already used your Bonnie, you get 2 cards that turn, and you get to swing. And he's at 4K, so you only have to put 1 Dawn on him. And even if you don't have a Dawn on him, you can swing. You can chump swing at like little things that they attacked you with them, and then you draw a card. So it's card advantage. It's also a controversial. Some people swear by Raizo. I personally like him. I have 3 of him in my green because he is just a nuts card. When he goes off, he is impossible. Like, he's impossible to deal with because you're just drawing so many cards. And if you have the Eustass Captain Kid, it makes him almost impossible to get rid of. So it's just a really strong way to play, because getting cards, very, very strong. Then we're going to be going with the tap package for Wano, which just works well, obviously, with the Kid and then the X-Drake. But you have Okiku, probably one of the best tappers in the game. Cost 3 for 5k. One Dawn when attacking. Rest up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less. So, insane card. Just super dope. Then you have Itzo, 2k counter, 3 for 3k. Rest one of your characters with a cost of 4 or less, which is just really good against specifically like Blue. Blue has the most 4 costs that they're playing. So like, this is really good against Blue, but it's also good against anything, because 2k counter and being able to rest something is really strong, because that means that you can kill early threats with it. Then you have Neku Mamushi. Here's Box Topper Mamushi, and then you have regular Mamushi, you see. Alright, so what he does is on play, you rest one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 3 or less for 2. So in some cases, he's better. In other cases, Itzo's better. I personally, even though it's just kind of a toss-up, I prefer Itzo because he has the 2K counter, which just makes all the difference, and he has a wider net that he can actually help you against. Okay? And then we have Paradise Waterfall, which is what I'm going to be going over for Oden, mostly because this is also the Wano kit. But one of the things with this is your leader or one of your character gains 2,000 power during this battle, then set one of your characters as active. So one of the nice things about this is you can either double block with it, with a blocker, or you can use it to protect. Like, let's say you're watching somebody and they have a ton of Dawn open, and they're like kind of slowly trying to bait out, get your kid done. So you're just sitting there and you're playing. So you're just pitching cards because they go 8K at your kid. Then they go like 9K at your kid. You pitch a 2K counter, and then right before they're about to hit you with something big, you just Paradise Waterfall. It's untapped, and then you draw a card, and you had your kid eat a bunch of high power attacks before that, and your kid's still on the board. So there's like a lot of tricky ways to play Paradise Waterfall. Okay, so now we're going to be moving into the multicolor realm because I'm going to be doing the red-green characters just because all the red-green stuff should be fresh in your mind. So we have Traffy. We have Trafalgar Law. What he does is tap 2 once per turn. If you have 5 characters, return 1 character to your hand, then play up to 1 character with a cost of 5 or less from your hand that's a different color than the return character. So he's just bouncing stuff back and forth. Really, really strong ability. Just super nuts card. You can do some of the most insane plays with him. And what I'm going to be covering for him, because obviously I covered a bunch of stuff that you wanted to play in his deck in red and green. But I'm just going to cover the 1K blockers, which generally if you have a 1K blocker, most people are running a bunch of them. They're running, like the 1K blocker is a really strong card because this can block a 12K power. This can block 20,000 power. As long as they don't have an ability that makes it so that they can't block them, it's just really good. And then I'm going to be talking about Traffy, right? So this is the blocker Traffy. What he does is you may return a character to your hand, play up to 1 character card with a cost of 3 or less from your hand. So you can literally, like let's say if I have a Chopper, which this isn't really great to do, you could return your Chopper and play it. So on play effects, he's really good with the 3. He works really well with the 3K stuff that you're doing. Okay? And then we're going to be talking about Mr. Loofers. So the Luffy leader, what he does is activate main once per turn. Pay 4, set up to 1 of your Supernovas or Straw Hat crew type characters with a cost of 5 or less. As active, it gains 1,000 power during this turn. So that is super strong. It works really well with a few cards that I found. It goes into, first off, I'm going to be talking about the promo Eustass Kid. When you put 2 Dawn on him, he gains double attack. So you can actually attack twice with Eustass Kid, and you can get 2 double attacks off, which is super strong. You have Brook. He's 4 for 5K with a 1K counter. And when attacking, put 1 Dawn on him. When attacking, give up to 2 of your opponent's characters -2 during this turn. So what he can do is he can help you do crowd control. He can help you make it so that their stuff's weaker to swing into, which is really good. And he's just banger card. Can't say anything bad about him. He is just great, right? In this particular deck, mostly because you can untap him and you can swing twice, so you can get double the value out of him. Generally, he's not someone that a lot of people play in most other decks, but that's just because it's like you're not really reactivating him. And 1K for 4 cost and 5K counter with an ability that's kind of niche is met, but when you're utilizing attacking twice with him, it's becomes a lot better. And then you have the Trafalgar Law, the 5 cost. This is the untap law. Set one of your supernovas or heart pirates rested characters with a cost of 5 or less as active. So this works best on Luffy, probably the Luffy's, just because he's unblockable. But that's a good card to consider when you're playing the Monkey.D.Luffy leader or the Trafalgar leader. He's also a very controversial card because some people say he's just trash, you don't use him. Other people, like, when you can untap your Luffy and swing 2 or 3 times with unblockable, it is nuts. It just really puts in work because, I personally am a big fan of it. I've seen a lot of Law players do really well with that particular combo. But, people are just going to do what they're going to do. Alright, so now we're going to move on to blue, purple, and Blurple. Okay, so we're going to start out with Kaido. And we're going to be looking at King. So King and Kaido. I'm going to be pulling out the cool looking Kaido. I'm going to be pulling out the cool looking King. So then we can kind of have a better discussion on this, because having better looking cards makes it, like having alternate arts makes it cooler, I guess, makes it a better time for all. Okay, so for Kaido, I'm going to be going mostly into his kill mechanic. So you have the Thirst Trap King, like the regular 7-cost King. What he does is you -2 Dawn. One of your opponent's characters with a cost of 3 or less, and up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 2 or less, you can kill them. So you KO them with that. Really strong card. It just works best against like green, red, purple. There's not like a ton of great things. You can kill some blockers with it and stuff, which is fine. But it doesn't work particularly well against blue, is kind of the downside. The other King works better against that, and it looks like I didn't put the other King in here, but I'll just put him up on there. He, for -1 Dawn, what he does is he can kill a 4-cost. Just kill it. It's just gone, no more. Then you have Kaido, which this is the little Kaido, -5 Dawn. This character gains rush during his turn, and this character KOs characters with cost 6 or less. So this is a controversial card. A lot of people think it's not great. They think it's only works as a finisher. A lot of people will swear by it. I personally think it's a really strong card, and it does a lot of work, because having something that comes in that rushes for 10,000 is no small thing. The -5 Dawn to do that is a rough cost. So I'm not gonna say that one got it better than the other. And we're going to talk about Super Kaido, which -6 Dawn. If your leader has the Animal Kingdom Pirates type, so you can only play him if the leader has the Animal Pirates type, you can KO all characters other than this character. So crazy strong, 10 for 12k power. The major thing is that he is very risky. He is a risky character, mostly because against green, they have the double attack, so they can just take you out. In red, they have rush. So they'll just rush you down as soon as you play Kaido. And what you're doing is you're not even just putting yourself on a counter, you're putting your enemy on a counter too. So it just depends on if you're really down a lot of life. Super Kaido can be a mistake. So, and then Queen, pretty much one of the best cards in purple, in my opinion. He's a blocker. You get -1 Dawn, draw 2 cards, then discard 1, which makes it so you do card cycling, and he goes parity, so he replaces himself, which is super strong. Great card to have in any of the decks. And then I'm going to be talking about the discard package. Obviously, you have Jack, which he -1 Dawn when attacking, and then your opponent trashes 1 card from their hand. So you just trash a card, really strong. He costs 3 for 4k, so he's not that far off from actually even taking out people's life. So he's a card to consider. The -1 Dawn, you can only have so many things that minus Dawn in your deck, so you kind of got to decide, do I want to have the discard package, which the better part of the discard package, in my opinion, is X-Drake, because he's not doing it every single turn, which is -1 Dawn, your opponent trashes 1 card from their hand. So he just comes in. He also has a 2K counter, which, like, there's a bunch of really good 2K counters in Kaido, but I'm not doing, like I said, I'm not doing a comprehensive breakdown of everything. I'm just basically saying these are some of the cards that you want to look at using for these colors. And then we have Blast Breath, which one -1 Dawn, and then it leader or one of your characters gains 4,000 power during this battle. Really strong. The -1 Dawn can hurt you, but getting plus 4K for one Dawn for only holding up one Dawn, really good interaction. So now we're going to be talking about King. So King, what he does, I forgot to go about, so for Kaido, what he does is once per turn, you can -7 Dawn, and then you can trash one of your opponent's life cards. So you can't win with this, but you can get rid of the last life with that, which can help you win. I've seen people use it aggressively. I've seen people use it defensively. I've seen people only use it when they're about to win. It's kind of a play style sort of thing. Okay, and then we're going to be talking about King. So if you have 10 Dawn cards on your field, give all of your opponents -1,000 power. So super strong. Well, it's a late game strategy. All of the Kaido's kind of more of a late game strategy. It's strong when you get it off, but it's really hard to get off, which makes it so you're just like, well, do I do that, or is it better for me to just do the regular Kaido plan? And most people will choose the regular Kaido plan because he also trashes cards, which is very strong. And this kind of goes against kind of what Kaido's doing because they're minusing Dawn, and what you want to do is always be at max Dawn. So you're going to be running things, if you want to do that, you're going to be running things like Jack. You may trash one card from your hand, add one card from your Dawn deck, and set as active. So he gives you an active Dawn when he comes into play, which makes it so you can do more, so you can get like more plays, and you're getting close to getting that -1,000 at 10 Dawn. You have Ulti, which 2, you play one, so for 3, they play a Dawn that is rested. So next turn, you're ramping up a Dawn. Good. It's good. The issue that I have with this card in general, why I think it's not played more, is because it doesn't have a 1K counter. If it had a 1K counter, probably most people would play it. But because it has no counter, it goes from the maybe, who knows, it's a possibility, right? Then you have the Sasaki. You may trash one card from your hand when attacking, so you have one Dawn, and then you can add up to one Dawn from your Dawn deck and rest it. So whenever he attacks, you can, if you have a Dawn on him, you can just put a rested Dawn in, which it ramps you. It's a pretty good card. It has 4K, so it's only one away. And to activate its ability, you get it at 5K. Obviously, 5K is not the magic number, but it can get people to discard cards. And who knows, they might take it. Then you have Kyoshiro, which on play, he draws one card if you have 8 or more Dawn cards on your field. So he's better, I'd say, in King because you're trying to ramp up to Dawn, so he replaces himself when he plays him. Still, I'm not really sold on him as a card, but drawing cards is good, and drawing cards without much of a cost is better. And then we're going to have the promo Kaido, okay? And what he does is add one Dawn from your Dawn deck and set it active. And he's 8 for 9K. So he just keeps your stuff up, so you can be minusing Dawn aggressively, and then still be getting like a bunch of Dawn at the end. Or you can have Dawn up for things like Blast Breath just automatically, as long as you're minusing Dawn each turn. So he works really well with Sasaki and especially like Jack. And then we're going to be talking about the Brachio Bomber. KO one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 6 or less, then add one Dawn card from your Dawn deck and set it as active. So 6K, 6 cost, gets rid of a 6 or less, and it's just a decent card. It is complicated because it does cost 6 to do, which makes people not exactly always want to be playing it, but it is something to consider if you want to be doing a good purple. And then Onigashima, just basically a 4 of in anything that's Animal Pirates, because you may rest this stage. If your leader has the Animal Kingdom Pirates type, add one Dawn from your Dawn deck and rest it. So this just ramps you really strong. It takes Kaido from being a B to being like S. So this is like what you want to see every single, you want to see Onigashima on your opening hand, just because it really just gives you a ton of power for your deck. Okay, so there is purple. All right, so now we are moving on to blue, which I'm a schleb, and I don't have the alternate art for Crocodile because I'm a pleb who doesn't have those such things. I do have an alternate art for Doffy though, so don't worry. I do have the Doffy. I'm going to be pulling out regular Doffy, and I'm going to be pulling out that. So, all right. So what we're going to be talking about first is the Crocodile plan. Okay, so what he does is activate main -4 Dawn from your Dawn deck, and then return one character with the cost of 5 or less to the owner's hand. So what he's doing is he's kind of more of a tempo / control. So he is just putting your opponent behind, and then what Doffy is doing is he is putting out bodies on the board, right? But I'm gonna talk about Doffy later. But so now we're gonna be talking about Crocodile. So a lot of the things that I'll see people doing well with Crocodile is they're essentially just bouncing stuff almost every turn. And that's kind of the best way that I've heard to play Crocodile. I haven't played him as much. I just have watched a couple games with him. So you're going to be running things like Jinbei, which he on play plays up to one character with a cost of 3 less at the bottom of the owner's deck. So just if you want to get rid of something, that thing is gone. So like Okiku is a really good thing that I would suggest that you want to just get rid of. Then you have Dracula Mihawk. Here we got the pretty one, and we got the SR, and then we got the alternate art here. So Dracula Mihawk, which place one character with the cost of 7 or less at the bottom of the owner's library. So that is just gross. It does take your entire turn, basically. So it is one of those cards that because it takes a whole turn, even though it's a really strong card. It's a card that you want to weigh out your options before doing because there's a lot of things that you can do with it. Then you have Donquixote Doflamingo. And he returns one character with cost of 7 to the less to the owner's hand on play. The major thing that's nice about him is he works really good with Doffy, with the leader Doffy, and I'll talk about that when I go over leader Doffy's ability. And then you have Officer Agents, which it's a counter, play one Baroque works type card with a cost of 3 or less from your hand. So you can do things like play blockers, you can play different things to help you defeat your opponent. So it's a decent card. I'm not entirely sold on it, but I think the best place that it has a place is with Crocodile, because then you can be staying ahead of your enemy. And then you have the Crescent Cutlass. If your leader has the 7 Warlords of the Sea type, return one character with a cost of 5 or less to their hand. So this is kind of like a preemptive thing, that you're just returning something that turn. So then they're behind, and then they're having to catch up. So you want to be doing something like a great target for this would be like Hawkins or something, or anything that doesn't have rush that is a threat. That's like 5. That's like right around the 5 cost. And then you have Overheat, which is up to one of your leader or character cards gains 4k power during this turn, then return up to one active character with a cost of 3 or less to their owner's hand. So what this does is it puts your opponent behind in tempo, and it protects something. So in that way, it's a very good card in a lot of ways. It's also just, it can be kind of complicated because, returning something that's 3 or less can be it's a good thing to do, but you want to make sure you're not hitting something that's going to be out and swinging that turn anyway, All right, and then we're going to be moving on to Donquixote Doflamingo. So you put 2 Dawn on him. When attacking, you pay 1, and then reveal 1 card from the top of your deck. If that card is a 7 Warlords of the Sea type character card with a cost of 4 or less, you may play that card rested. So his ability is great, right? one of the reasons why I was saying, I've heard some people say they like Donquixote Doflamingo, the Donquixote Doflamingo, um, seven for 7K over Mihawk is because he bounces something, and you can also use Dopey's ability. So you can set your opponent back while also putting something else on your board, which can be a stronger interaction depending on what the game calls for, right? So the major things that are enablers for Dofi are Perona, which on play, look at the top 5 cards from the top of your deck and place them at the top or bottom of the deck in any order, right? This makes it so that you can enable his ability so that you know exactly what card is going to be there. It just can be tough because you have to keep track of, did you draw an extra card? Do you think you're going to draw an extra card? Are you going to be using any abilities that make you draw extra cards? Because you could end up stacking it in a way where you end up not even hitting something that you can play. So it's just like you have to think a couple turns ahead with this. And then so here's the cool looking Perona, and then you have Doffy, which does the exact same thing that Perona does, except for he is a 4K blocker, which better in some ways, but you don't have a turn 1 Doffy, which makes him worse in some cases. Like you want to see Perona first turn, and then Doffy later is just really strong because blockers are dope, which I'm going to do a blocker video as well. So like when I go over the blockers, I'll definitely get into it. So one of the prime targets for Doffy's ability is Bartholomew Makuma. So on KO, play up to 1 Pacifista with a cost of 4 or less from your hand. Okay, so he comes in rested. Your opponent swings in, and then you can do one of these 2 cards. So you can do the Mimafista, or you can do a Pacifista, right? It just depends. Do you want to have a counter with a big body, or do you want to have a 5K blocker? That's kind of the decision between them. But the nice thing is there's a couple ways that you can bait this out where, let's say you protect him. Like I pitch a card to protect him because they swung 5 at him, and then they swing with a bigger swing. Then you can just like, okay, it dies. And then you put one of these 2 things in there. You can't put both of them, but you can only put one, which is a strong interaction. And you can bait out cards. You can bait out swings. He's decent. Then you have Mihawk, 2K counter. Obviously, 2K counters are very important to have in the game. Draw 2 cards, trash 2 cards. So he cycles through your deck. He gets you the stuff that you want, and he makes it so that, for example, like let's say the next 2 cards aren't going to be useful to your game plan. You swing with Mihawk with a Dawn on him, right? And then you just turn around and play either one of your Peronas or one of your Dofis, and then you can restack your deck so then you can modify your game plan. Is a nice thing. All right, and then we have Boa Hancock, okay? So we have the nice looking Boa, we have the regular Boa, both banger cards. So it's a blocker. When attacking or on block, draw 1 card if you have 5 or less cards in your hand. So like refuels you, just super busted card. The only thing is this is one of the cards that you usually, I would say, you want to draw because you want to be able to draw off of Boa. You don't usually want to be using Dopey's ability. You can, and it can be a good decision if you don't have anything else you can use Dopey's ability on. But if you have another option, generally you want to be throwing, like obviously the best option is probably Kuma, right? Then Gecko Moria, and then the nice thing about Gecko Moria is he add one of the Warlords of the Sea type or Thriller Bark Pirates type with a cost of 4 or less other than Gecko Moria from your trash to your hand. So this can get back so many different things. Like one of the things I see a lot of people, they use it to get back Mihawk, so then they have 2K counter. I've seen somebody use Mihawk like 3 or 4 times in a deck. And then Love Love Mellow, arguably the best counter in the game. Your leader or one of your character gains 4,000 power this turn. Then draw 1 card if you have 3 or less cards in your hand. So it replaces itself most of the time. It gives you a 4K counter. Just great card. It costs 2. And it like works well with other characters. So now, there we go. that is general blue. These are some of the things that you want to look into running if you're going to be playing blue. All good stuff. Okay, and now I'm going to be talking about Blurple. All right, so we're going to be talking about Kaido and Crocodile. And then we have the nice-looking Kaido, nice-looking Crocodile, right? Okay, so the major thing that Kaido does, is he does basically the same thing that Kaido's doing. The nice thing about him is you can run the 10-cost Kaido, so he can just wipe the board, and that's kind of the main difference. And he's also a ramp, so he's ramping you up. You can get to a lot of the stronger cards earlier with Purple Kaido. The other downside with any of the, I didn't go over this with the green, but any of the dual color leaders, they go down to 4 life instead of 5. So you get 5 life with any of the mono colors, you get 4 life with any of the dual colors, which is just a good cost. You have a larger pool. Okay, and then, so for him, the major thing is you can run Big Kaido, and he's the tempo, right? You have Crocodile, which is kind of more of a control, and he also is advantage. So he's all about drawing cards. That's what his interactions are. So there's 2 really big cards that help out with him as a character. And the first one, obviously you want to be running a lot more event cards, because his ability is when you activate an event, you may draw 1 card if you have 4 or less cards in your hands and haven't drawn a card using this leader's effect during this turn. So super strong, because like you can just protect yourself and also be gaining cards. It works really well with Love Love Mellow, which I just talked about. And then the major things that you want to be looking at with him is Miss All Sunday, which on KO, if your leader has the Brokeworks type, add 1 event from your trash to your hands. So you're getting your events and you're protecting your life. So she's really good, specifically in Blurple Crocodile. You have Crocoboy. So here's the cool looking Croc, here's the regular looking Croc. And then what he does is if he has a Dawn on him, give blue events in your hand -1 cost. He also banishes cards. So he actually trashes the cards if he gets through. But the major thing that makes him super good as well is the fact that he's minusing your blue events. So you can do things like Love Love Mellow, and it only costs 1, which is a nuts effect for 1. And then here's the regular looking that. So with Blurple Kaido, he's generally, like I said, he's a ramp Kaido, because if he has 1 Dawn your turn, when your opponent's character is KO'd, add 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck and set it as active. So you're just killing cards, so you can use all the different things to kill cards. And he runs really well with things like Super Kaido. Let me find him. Yeah, Super Kaido, King, all of your stuff that's killing stuff. It also ends up ramping you. So like, if you end up getting like a King off, if you put Dawn on him, you just get the Dawn back. So you minus the Dawn and you get it right back. And then with the Kaido, you only get 1 back. So like if you use Kaido, you're going to go back up to 5, which makes it so that you're at a 7 curve. And then with King, you only go down 1 for using King. So good, it's a good thing. It makes it so that it's not as stringent on destroying on like hurting you for using all of your cool effects. But it makes it so that your KO effects are a lot better because they don't punish you as much. And then again, like I said, he's just doing pretty much what Kaido is doing. He just ramps himself while he's doing it, which is makes it so that you can play a lot more of the minus effects because you're already ramping your stuff, But anyway, so that is the cursory understanding. Like I said, if you really want me to dive deep into all of these different leaders, I absolutely am willing to do so. You just got to basically say, hey, I wanted to get a breakdown of the Crocodile deck. I wanted to get a breakdown of the Kaido deck. I wanted to get a breakdown of any of the different decks, and then I'll give you guys a comprehensive breakdown, and then show like what people are running, why they're running it, give you guys a couple ideas. But anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I know this video is just a monster, so hopefully you guys like and subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and be sure to have a nice day. Thank you.